Hey everyone, it's Dr. Lynch, and I'm really excited to be reaching out to you on the heels of Level 2 completing. That was Level 2.1 and Level 2.2. And I wanted to share just some of the insights that I had after reading through all your posts. So let's get into it. I think I was really excited by the ways in which you responded to the different videos around language and languages and what it means to honor multiple languages. And what also comes through in the posts over and over is this idea that, like, dang, and like in my classroom, like I've got to do more to figure out how to support students' languages plural. And we're not just talking about English language learners, though, in some cases we are, but we're also talking about the fact that, like, our students speak different ways in different settings, or if they don't, then there's more we might be able to do to help them kind of understand how to do that and to see what the advantages are for them. And I found myself making, what ends up happening, right, is like over the period of responding to, there's about 25 of you in the class, I'm responding to 4 posts each. It's about 100 posts. So I start to see patterns in some of the things that I'm saying. I just want to underscore some of it. So one is that, in the Coates video, the idea that he puts forth in there that not all words belong to everyone, like it's a powerful idea, of course, right? Especially in the context of the word he's talking about. But what I would also say is you can extrapolate that, and you can actually riff with that concept, that idea, in a really valuable way in your classroom. Like, what I mean by that is this. I mean to say that, like, what does it mean to think about our students coming into our classrooms and for them not to feel like the words of science class, let's say, that those words don't belong to them? Right? What does it mean for us to say, like, well, how can I make the language of science something that our students feel more ownership over and they feel as if they belong, right? You can do that lots and lots of different ways. One of the basic ways to do it, and you'll see this is something I'm going to say over and over again, is like you engage students in these kinds of conversations. Ask them, like, how do you feel when you're in science class in terms of the kinds of words that we use, the language that we use to talk about science, and things we're reading, and the ways we talk about it? How do you feel when you don't know how to pronounce one of those words? Do you think pronouncing it correctly is really matters, right? Like, engage in conversation. And if it's too intimidating to do it with the whole class, and I would understand that, pull aside a subgroup of students, hold them in during lunch or after school, buy a little pizza, and, like, get into the conversation. They will come up with insights and ideas that can have direct relationships to your practice, that can actually inform your practice. Another suggestion that I heard myself saying multiple times was the idea of the Liskott 3 English How I Speaking, the poem, right? And it's like it's an awesome, powerful poem. And often what I was reading in the comments was like, oh, this really pushed my thinking on how to and that's great and that's wonderful. But what does it mean to do more with it? What does it mean to operationalize it? And one idea that came to mind while I was writing different comments is this, is like, there's no reason you couldn't assign groups of students in your class to create a poem like that around science content. Let's say you could show students the poem, you could discuss what it means to move across different Englishes and to say the same thing different ways. And then you could ask the groups, ask them to each take a core science concept. And as a group, they have to write a poem in which they represent that concept in at least 3 different, kind of very different ways to the rest of the class, and they perform it. Now, if they do something like that, you're getting through the content, which is a big part of especially science, social studies, and some other subjects, but you're doing it in a way that's creative, that's performative, and that leverages language very creatively. Now, one other thing that I heard myself saying over and over again is, I think some of the suggestions from the video around why English is so damn hard to learn, there were certain ideas there and concepts there that you thought were really rich. If that's the case, like, think about, again, what does it mean for me to engage with maybe a subset of students? Maybe I want to pull my L's aside and say, hey, what are the hardest parts of, like, the English language in this science class? Like, what is it? What are the words? What are the things that we do, the way that we talk? Like, what makes it most hard at times? Get that hit list, put it up on a piece of poster paper, and put it up at the front of the room. talk with the rest of the class about it and say, look, we all have different languages we speak, formal and informal, sometimes different, different, just totally different languages. But when we're in school, like, we rely on language heavily in order to like figure out like what we know and don't know and to communicate. So when we're in this class, these are some of the things I want us to be aware of when it comes to language. These kinds of phrases are really, really hard for some of us to understand. These kinds of things are really, and you could even add to that sort of thing as like a hit list over time. But make it, step one is like with a lot of these, is like step one is engage with the students, pull them into the conversation, and step two is to find a simple way to operationalize it, to realize it as part of your classroom culture. And don't underestimate the power of like post-it paper, marker, and intentionality. All right, you put those things together and you can keep coming back to it. You'll be reminded of it because it's up in a space, and you'll be amazed at some of the ways that it'll affect your practice. All right, I think that's the gist of what I wanted to share. It is. I hope you're enjoying the class. I'm enjoying it immensely. I really like engaging with you in these public spaces. I hope if you haven't started thinking about it, like think about what it means to have a LinkedIn profile as like a professional, kind of resume sort of thing, or just a way that you're engaged in the world. Twitter's a little different that way, but people do that with Twitter as well. But think about how you can start to establish this kind of professional network and engage. And if you have any ideas about the course, let me know. Also, I had a couple of exchanges. Who was it with? I forget. I'd have to go look it up, and that would be awkward. But I also put out there that like I'm really interested in trying to figure out ways to better support you, both while you're in the program and beyond. So if you have ideas about that, let me know. Whether it's creative, we have a group, right? That hasn't totally taken off. Actually, we could do other kinds of things. We could have like an office hours, a hotline kind of thing. We could have like a Twitter chat or something. There could be different ways that you could just make sure that you like have you have access to me or to others in terms of getting support when you need it. So if you've got thoughts, I'm really interested in hearing those. And for now, I'm just going to say goodbye, and I'll see you online.